Hey everybody, welcome back to the Queens Lair. I am your host, Kellie Miles, and this is part 2 of our Moms of Murdered Sons 2-part series. Thank you so much for watching and joining us today. We have 2 of the mothers that joined us on the first episode that are coming back again to share with us, and we have Daphne, Alston, and we have Mrs. Kim Burrell. Hello, ladies. Welcome back.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Hello.
It's good to see you guys. And so we're so glad that you actually have a better connection to this time, Miss Daphne. So we're so excited. We wanted to just welcome everyone back. Again, like I said, this is part 2 of our Moms of Murdered Sons series. And this one is the namesake of Miss Daphne's organization, her nonprofit. And so basically, we had some technical issues last week. And so we're going to kind of do a little bit of a recap of what we talked about from part 1. We talked a little bit about what the problems were, what the experiences were, and the encounters of the mothers who have encountered and experienced losing their sons to gun violence. And so we talked a little bit about you, Miss Daphne, and because we had some of those technical issues, I want to really just get a little bit from you, for you to share about your story again. Tell us a little bit about your son and what happened in his story again.
Yes. My son, Tariq Alston, went to a party. Well, one evening he came in from a cookout and he came back in the house to stay. And then a couple of his friends called him to go out to a party. And he didn't want to go to the party. He said, we too old to go up there with them young kids up at their party. So again, they talked him into it, and then they went to the party. And 20 minutes after them being in the party, Tariq came out the party to call his girlfriend on his cell phone, and that's when someone shot him in the head in the stairwell of the party.
Wow.
Again, like I say, when that phone call I received was the worst phone call of my life. Yeah, and I still have that phone call in my mind. 13 years, it'll be 13 years July the 8th, and I still have that phone call. I'm scared to answer my phone at night.
Mm-hmm.
I'm scared for my other children, my grandchildren. I don't even want them to go out the house. They're older adults now, and I'm still calling them all day, seeing every move they make, where they are. I'm still frantic about it. I don't know if that's I'm not where I used to be. I'm a lot better, but it was just only my friend and the act of God that's keeping me, because I thought I was lost my mind. I wanted to lose my mind.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, it's the hardest thing I ever did in my life.
Yeah. So tell me about your experience emotionally. Like what, talk about that. How did you go through those? What emotions did you deal with and you go through at that time?
Well, first emotions mostly are guilt. Now, for instance, Tariq said he was going to a party. He asked my husband for the $15 to go, and then my husband didn't have it. He said, "No, I'm not giving it to you. You don't need to go nowhere." And so he came into my room, of course, he hugging on me and all. He asked me for the $15. So, of course, I gave it to him. And he went to the party and never came back home again. So that was a big piece of guilt that I still carry to this day. If I had not gave him the money, would he have went? Or then sometime I said, well, maybe his friend would have paid his way in. Mm-hmm. The fact of the matter is that I gave him the money, and he went to the party, not knowing that he was going to die, and me not knowing that he was going to die. But it's just a gut wrenching. It goes way down in your soul.
Yeah.
Sometimes I got to shake myself and see if I'm real, to see if I'm alive. I'm like, sometimes I drive to work. I don't know how I got there. That's the honest truth. Sometimes I be in the grocery store. I don't know how I got there. Go to the mall. I pull up to the mall like, why am I here? Because my mind is constantly thinking about what in the world could have happened. Who would kill Tariq? And why? Is the question.
It's a hard thing, but it's something that we have to remember is that, unfortunately, we as human beings, we have, God allows us to have will. And because he gives us a will and he gives us a choice, a lot of the choices that people make are based on their own inordinate desires, their own personal selfish, um, what they want. You know what I'm saying? Their own personal gain. And unfortunately, when we have people dealing with their inordinate desires, those things impact other people. And it's unfortunate that this is exactly what happens, is that people operate and act out of their own selfish ways, their own selfish gain, and then it impacts other people. But we have to stand fast and believe and know that God's word stands true. We have to be encouraged and know that we have to get a grip and know that and lean on what we know God's word tells us, which is very difficult when you're dealing with these things. It's very difficult because you're human and you have these human feelings. But we have to remember there were so many people, even in the Bible, that were examples before us. I mean, if you look at the story about Job, nobody talks about Job's wife. Job's wife, when Job's wife said, curse God and die, is because she felt like that inside because she lost her children. And you know what I'm saying? She felt that. Nobody talks about Job. Nobody talks about when Eve and we has lost her Cain and Abel. That was infighting. You know what I'm saying? That was infighting. And nobody talks about the fact that Eve lost her child. What did she feel and what did she deal with? And even though she had Seth after that, what did she feel for the rest of her life that she lost her child? You know what I'm saying? There's so many women in the Bible that we don't hear about. And even when you think about the natural part of Jesus, Jesus had a mother, a human mother, and his mother lost her child basically from the human standpoint to murder. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So when we look at that, these are all examples and things in the Bible that God gives us for us to lean on right now. It gives us an opportunity for us to be able to say, if these women went through these experiences and God still stood with them and strengthened them, then how much more can God strengthen us in these situations right now? And he uses that and uses the power that you two are standing in to go help other people when they need that strength, because some people are in a place now where they can't get that. They don't have it. They just can't. And this is where you guys come in. And so that's my little spiel. I'm gonna shut up because I ain't come here to preach to y'all tonight. But yes, so Miss Daphne, I just wanted to kind of get that and hear your story and hear and recap because we missed a lot of it last time. So thank you so much for coming back. Thank you for sharing that story. And so we left off last conversation talking a little bit about what the problem is. And I want to kind of go back to that because we didn't really get to dive into it much. And so I want to take a few minutes to talk about that today. So what do you think is the problem within the community? I mean, is it a silence in the community? Is it the generational gaps? Is it a commitment to the issue? Do we feel like the church is not giving enough to this particular problem? So let me just hear about what you guys think about that really quickly. And we'll start with you, Kimberly, since we heard from Miss Daphne this morning.
In my opinion, the church takes. I've not seen the church come out and give. These young men don't need anyone to ridicule them. They need people who will meet them where they are and say, I love you for who you are. How can I get you from here to there alive? Literally. That's the bottom line. Resource when it comes to these young men, they doubt everything and trust no one. No one. You know, I had to really get down and dirty with my sons to let them know I know what you're going through. Maybe not as a black man, but I know what you're going through. And when they still don't got it. They still don't got it. I still have to reiterate it all the time, you know. But it's bad out here. It's bad out. But the church has failed them. Because you can't say, and I don't care what church it is. If you are a church on a corner and the boys is on the block, you have to reach out to them somehow, some way, pray to God, and get them help. That's the bottom line. You know, the church was built on community.
Mhm.
You
What do
know,
you think, Miss Daphne?
Well, uh, I think a lot has to do with the last 20 or 25 years, what has taken place in society, especially for these young people. And a lot of that has to do them living through, most of them through poverty or neglected communities, and also the crack cocaine era that was a great part of their life. So say if they're 20 and it's been going on 25 years, so for the whole 25 years, this is all they know and see. And they think it's normal when nobody's in the community is correcting it and saying that this is not right and we shouldn't be doing this. Most people run from the young people. They're afraid of them and they don't take the opportunity that God gives. He gives all of us enough strength to talk to young people and take the opportunity and pull them to the side and ask, can I pray for you? Or is it something that you need that I can get? Because we see the making of the bomb. We
Mm-hmm.
see the poverty, misguidance, maybe no parents, drug addiction, alcoholism. We see the making of all these bombs around these children. And then the only time we do something about it is now because all these bombs are exploding everywhere.
yes.
They're
Mm-hmm.
exploding everywhere. You can what's the makeup of the bombs? Poverty again, I say that all the time. Bad parenting, some parent no parenting at all, no community commitment anymore, no block parties, nothing that's going right. And the kids come home and tell us their experiences and stuff. And we've learned from our parents, oh, you can handle that. Black people have always told their kids, "Oh, you can handle that. Be strong. You all right
Mm-hmm.
with that." And we don't. We was always told you stay in the child's place and you don't ask adults questions and you don't do these things. Well, the giants on the land are much bigger than it was for our parents and all. And maybe the church is not prepared neither for these giants that's on the land down there. We're fighting every day. And we need to take another look at what church needs to be now. And it's like coming out of the four walls and becoming coming like Christ. He walked through
The
he walked and he
streets.
talked with the people. He
The
sat
street.
down with them. He communed
Yeah.
with them. And
Yeah.
that's what we don't see because we're fancy now. We went straight from depending on the Lord, through slavery and all the things that black people have went through, and then we jumped straight to prosperity, and we left a whole generation of people behind trying to get to where we wanted to go, and not taking our children with us. And that's the same thing with the women in the workforce. We've gone straight from just having a little secretary job and going home, get our kids, and to having corporate jobs where we're stopping now going to meetings after work or going to happy hours and doing things, and the kids are honestly not being taken care of probably. And the social media is the biggest demon of everything
Yes,
our
I
Oh
children
my
have to
agree.
God.
deal with.
I
Social
agree.
media is terrible. And
It's
and you
terrible.
and
It's
it's
horrible.
basically what it sounds like you're saying is that people have gotten so wrapped up into the glitz and glamour and trying to compete with each other to see who can get to the top first, and
Right.
whoever is outdoing the other person, they feel like they get angry with that person, and it causes a mindset to go into a destructive mindset. And when you get
Yes.
into that destructive mindset, they say it, that saying says hurt people. When you
Right.
start to destruct that, you start to create all kinds of imaginations and all kinds of things
Yes.
in your mind, and people are after you, or this person's trying to get over on you, and it starts to build, and then it starts to develop anger, and then people start to feel like because someone else has and they don't, now they
Right.
have to get it, like Kim talked about before, about that jealousy factor, because one thought they were better than the other, and it
Hmm.
it, it kind of continues to perpetuate. So the hardest thing in the world to change, though, is a mindset. So
Right.
how do we do that? How do we get to the place? And even with the process that we're going to go into next, which is um healing process, before we get there, we have to first come into understanding that there has to be a change. We have to
Yes.
recognize and
We have to,
identify that there has to be a mindset change before we can even move to that next step. And before we go to the healing process, I want to run a quick gun violence video to kind of give you a little bit of information on the gun violence. So we're going to take a brief moment and go to that video. And that right there, that information right there, talking about the straw purchases, the access that our young people have. And can you imagine, they're talking about giving people, or doing background checks and stuff like that for people who have guns. Well, here's my thing. If I don't have a mental issue, but I'm angry, that's just as much of an issue, because you're not going to not give me a gun because you don't know that I'm angry. So how do we remedy that situation? And let's talk about that. What are your thoughts about that whole straw purchases and how these things are continuing to go on because of the illegal guns and stuff like that?
Well, I always post and I always say that guns don't kill people. It's the mindset of the person who pulls that trigger. And we know that in our communities, we have a lot of hidden mental illness and things that we never have ever dealt with in our community. Like I said, because we was always say hush, hush, about everything. So there was never no healing process. We just moved from, one accountability to another. Guns are been around all our lives and stuff. I mean, we've seen them, but we weren't in that mindset to pick them up and use it, even think about harming anybody or hurting anybody. We have to change. The gun is just a tool that Satan uses to devour and destroy. And we have to if you can fix the mindset and teach them and tell them what they're doing to their communities and their families and their moms and dads, and give them the examples of this is what happens if you go do this to someone. This is not just that you killed this person. You have a whole line of other people that has been affected by your bad behavior. Even a whole nation has been affected. Your one decision can change your whole nation. Because like I said, my son's homicide happened in Baltimore, Maryland, but it had to go to my aunt in Atlanta. It had to go to my cousins in Connecticut. That pain, it went everywhere. So you got all these angry people. They are mad all across the country because of that one homicide. So it's so deep. How do we get to these kids? And we had to start over. We had to start at an early age. We can't change what's going on now, but we certainly can learn from our mistakes and start. I'm talking about having classes and stuff. Churches particularly have open doors. In the evenings, they should be able to come in and have people in the neighborhood come volunteer with these kids and give them something that maybe they not getting at home. I don't care if it's just a hug or a meal or something, and tell them how great they are and that they can do anything with stuff. But you know what the bottom line is? There's no money in prevention. All the money is made on the back end. It's nobody talking about stopping crime. All they want to do is blame the mayor and the state's attorney and the police committee. Ain't nobody else saying nothing. The funeral homes ain't saying nothing. The flower people, the casket people, the bells, bondsmen. Ain't nobody mad. Everybody get paid. The person come clean the scene up gets paid. The ambulance driver, the hospital, everything that led up to their homes, even come back getting the blood off the streets and stuff. Everybody is paid on the back end.
Yeah.
So there is no preventiveness.
Now, let me ask you this though. With all of those things in mind, as mothers having experienced this, tell me, what is the healing process for you though? Because it's something you'll never get over. You know what I mean? And everybody's grief period is different. But how do you heal from that? How do you, like, give some advice to a mother who's watching this right now, who's feeling like she's ready to give up, and she's feeling like this is fresh, this is new, I'm never going to be able to come back from this. What do you do? How do you heal from this? What does that process look like?
For me, the healing process begins with helping others.
Mhm.
I'm not just healing. I have children that are healing. I have an ex-husband that is still healing. I have family that is still healing.
Mhm.
So the healing process is never ending. It's never ending. As far as change, legislation needs to change.
Mm,
It needs to change to fit what we're dealing with now.
Mhm.
And
yeah,
what we dealt with 20 years ago, we're not dealing with now. And
Right.
that's why I choose to work with legislators to make sure that my views and Daphne's views as a victim are heard.
Mhm.
yeah,
Right.
Because we need legislative changes that fit us, not everyone else. But healing is forever. I
Right.
grieve at the first day he died. Okay, it was unexpected, but every year after that, I know that day is coming.
yeah,
I
Right.
tell people to leave me alone
mm,
during June and July,
Mhm.
and that's because I've learned to know myself.
yeah,
I know
Mhm.
what I'm going to deal with. I know what my attitude is going to be because I
Mhm.
know. And that's my coping mechanism. Just leave me alone and I'll be good. And after July 21st, guess what? I'm back to normal
yeah,
because
Mhm.
my soul has said, here it comes.
yeah,
Mhm.
Maybe when I turn 60, it'll go away. But this day I dread. Well, Kelly, when I tell you I have written books on this day, I
yeah,
have had conferences on this day. I have had all kinds of things on July 21st, and July 21st still affects me. It
yeah,
still
Mhm.
affects me. I want women to understand that the grief will never end. It's how
yeah,
you deal with it. And I
Mhm.
choose to be out here in the streets telling other mothers to check your son's rooms, telling other mothers to tell your sons to take a program, take the
Mhm.
resources while you
Mhm.
have them. So that's how I deal with it.
yeah. And
I
that's
do. I do.
Yeah. And it's tough because it's like you'll never, get over it, but you learn how to work through it. And I think that's important. And we're running short on time, but Miss Daphne, I want to hear your healing process. So, if you take like 2 minutes to just tell us a little bit about your healing process, because I also want to give some resources to people.
Well, my healing process began, I guess, with I received some information in the mail of some programs I can go through, or some therapy and stuff I can go through. So I did go one night. I mean, I went like 4 Mondays in a row, and I went around a group of moms and dads whose children were dead also, but they weren't murdered. So they had motorcycle accidents, and things like that. So when I came in the room and I told my story, it blew everybody away. They was boo-hooing stuff more than me because they couldn't believe that, that happens. That really happens to. So they said they see it on TV and stuff, but they never been with anybody who really experienced that. So nobody else was getting any healing because every time I came, that's all they want to talk about. So I just started um, my healing process on myself doing community things with all the children in the
Okay.
community. And
Yeah.
that's how we got started. And we did a community healing night. And
Yeah.
that's how we
Wow.
got started. And then next, the organization came along because we realized that my mother and them love me dearly. I have 5 sisters and a brother and all. They love me dearly, but I can't sit around them all the time and talk about Tariq all the time because it made them sad and all. I was making
Yeah.
everybody around me sad. So I said, you know what? I'm going to find out, and we put it out there that if any mothers who lost their children, to gun violence and all, we would start meeting. So that's how we became united. Mothers of
Hmm.
murdered sons and daughters, and we just
That's awesome.
like a NA or AA. You know
Yeah,
what I
you
mean?
need
It
that.
never runs out. You can come. like every Friday. I mean, you come if you want to talk about your son for 365 Fridays, that's fine with us until you heal. And I healed through the process because when we started this organization, we were all so broke down, and now we have other mothers coming again, and we take pleasure in seeing how the first day we met them to where they are now, that it does work. And God said he wouldn't take nothing from us that, he wouldn't replace. I would rather had it taken something else. But God is so awesome in my
Yeah,
healing process because I honestly have a personal relationship with him that like I never had before.
Yeah.
And that
absolutely.
Yeah.
makes the
That's the
difference. I
difference.
learned to go to him
Yes.
instead of saying something. And I be like, look, yo, that's how I be talking. You let this happen to
Yes.
me.
Keep it real.
I go to church, I sing on a choir, I cook chicken at the church and string beans. I do all this stuff, and you let this happen to me. You got to
Yeah.
be kidding. Well, you know what? You gonna fix me. I'm gonna worry you to death. You are going to fix Daphne.
Yes,
So
She is
I
so
just
funny. She
go
is so
on.
funny.
it's real though. It's
It's
real, and
real.
I appreciate that realness because that's what people need to hear. They
Yes,
need to
yes.
hear the realness because the reality of the fact is that when it comes to healing, the first thing you have to do is something we mentioned before in the previous show is you have to acknowledge that you need help. You have
Right.
to
Yes.
realize that you
Yes.
need help, that you can't get through this by yourself, and you have to understand that you do need a support system because God created us and people need people. So we need to get that support. And what it sounds like is the community that you guys get involved in to help is what help you heal as you help
Right.
other people. And so you need to have that community. You need to have that support system, and you need to make sure that you are reaching out. And if you are a mother who lost a child, you don't have to go and endure through this alone. Please, we're going to bring up a resource list. Please reach out to one of these resources on the screen for support. If you're located in the Baltimore area, please contact Daphne Alston of Moms of Murdered Sons. If you're in the Philly area, please contact Mothers in Charge. You can also contact in the Philadelphia area. If you're interested in prevention efforts, please also reach out to the GVI program. And with that GVI program, we're going to ask Kimberly, if you could share a little bit about that really quickly, the GVI program, before we get ready to close out. Just tell us what that is and how that helps within the community.
Well, GVI is a program that what law enforcement does is they give the Office of Violence and Prevention list of names every week of young men or offenders that are at risk, with charges and gun charges or just in gang related violence. And what they do, there's a team of public defenders. There is Mr. Sumter. There's Mr. Brian Lentz. There is always a mother and always someone from the DA and social services. And what they do is we go out every Saturday and we talk to these young men to take this program. The city, the federal government gave the city a lot of money to give these young men jobs and to help them. So we go out every Saturday. We offer them jobs, counseling, housing if they got it. Dion is an amazing man. He'll give them Pampers.
Mhm.
If you're out here in these streets just to get your kid Pampers, Dion will bring you Pampers. Let's cut that. And he meets these young men on their level. I respect that.
Great. Thank you so much, ladies. I know we have to get ready to wrap up now, but you guys have been amazing. Thank you for just having the courage to get on here and share your stories, to share your knowledge and information that you've had and the resources. We just thank you so much for everything. And we just ask that everyone who's watching, please make sure you check out the resource list. Don't go through this by yourself. Don't go through it
No.
alone. You can make it through this with God's help because He has created a support system of women that have gone through this just for you to be able to take advantage of and use for your benefit. So make sure that you join us and reach out to those community of people. So thank you so much for the show. We'll talk to you guys later. Thank you.